On March 2, 2025, Prime Minister Keir Starmer delivered a bold and unsettling declaration. Britain is prepared to send troops and aid support to Ukraine, an aggressive move that underscores a shift in policy that is both dangerous and essential for the security of Europe. This is not merely about sending aid or keeping up with international rhetoric. No, this is a resounding statement, one that leaves little room for complacency or indifference. It signals the beginning of a new era where Europe, led by the UK, is willing to put its most precious resource, its people, on the line to secure the future of Ukraine and its own security. This is the moment when talk ends and action begins. The Prime Minister's commitment to backing Ukraine's sovereignty and security with boots on the ground and planes in the air is not a soft gesture of goodwill. It's a resounding call to arms, an acknowledgement that inaction has perilous consequences. Starmer is correct to say that Europe is at a crossroads. We cannot afford to dither while the Russian threat looms larger and more dangerous every day. The risk of a weakened Ukraine falling to Russia is not just a disaster for the region, it would send shockwaves across the globe. To cower in the face of aggression now would be to risk the very principles of democracy and sovereignty that have anchored the post-World War II order. It is easy for some to dismiss these developments as another instance of Western interventionism or to question the cost of military involvement. Let them. The reality is far more pressing. The consequences of allowing Ukraine to collapse under Russian aggression are simply too dire to ignore. A Russian victory in Ukraine would have far-reaching effects, not only destabilizing Eastern Europe but threatening the security of the entire continent. Starmer's words echo the truth that, while not every nation will feel able to contribute, those who can must step up, and Britain, under his leadership, is making it clear that it will. The proposal for a coalition of the willing is essential. We cannot afford to wait for universal consensus or the comfort of every country feeling comfortable with their contribution. The world is changing rapidly, and there is no room for indecision. The UK's move, in cooperation with the United States and key NATO allies, is a demonstration of leadership that the world desperately needs. The status quo has failed Ukraine. Diplomatic efforts, while important, have not prevented Russia from pressing its imperial ambitions, and the clock is ticking. But this move goes beyond the geopolitical and military realities. It is an ideological imperative. A peace deal that ensures Ukraine's sovereignty and security must not merely be a temporary fix but a lasting solution. The ongoing suffering in Ukraine is not just a distant tragedy, it is a direct challenge to the international order. If we fail to support Ukraine decisively, we are sending a message to every other nation that sovereignty can be trampled with impunity. To allow Russia to secure its dominance over Ukraine is to undermine the very principles of international law that underpin global peace. If Ukraine falls, others will fall too, and the consequences for global security will be catastrophic. The commitment to keep bolstering Ukraine's defensive capabilities after a peace deal is an equally critical step. There is no world in which we allow a false peace to emerge, one that leaves Ukraine vulnerable to future Russian aggression. Ukraine must be able to defend itself independently, and for that, the West must provide sustained military aid, both during and after the peace talks. If history has taught us anything, it is that appeasement only breeds more aggression. A temporary ceasefire without strong guarantees will leave Ukraine as a sitting duck, vulnerable to a resurgent Russian threat. No more false promises. No more empty rhetoric. We must ensure Ukraine can stand on its own and deter any future invasion. This is the choice before us. We either act now to defend Europe's integrity and values, or we condemn ourselves to live with the repercussions of inaction. The suggestion that Europe can sit back while Ukraine fights alone is an abandonment of our responsibilities. There is no neutrality in the face of tyranny. To endorse a solution that leaves Russia with a free hand is to surrender to the forces of oppression. Starmer's announcement also underscores the critical role of transatlantic partnerships. His meetings with President Trump and former NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg show that the alliance with the United States remains a cornerstone of any viable peace effort. The reality is that European nations alone cannot shoulder the burden of ensuring peace in Ukraine. The US must remain an active partner, with its unparalleled military power and diplomatic influence. The UK's leadership is essential, but it cannot be the only one. If Europe is to secure peace, it must work in lockstep with the United States and its NATO allies to ensure Ukraine's survival and the stability of Europe as a whole. The time for deliberation has passed. There are no more excuses for delay, no more room for half-hearted efforts or naive optimism. Peace in Ukraine will not happen by waiting for the perfect moment. It will happen because we take a stand now, and with strength. The UK's decision to put boots on the ground and planes in the air is the right one. It is the only one. Anything less would be an abdication of responsibility and an invitation for further conflict. It's time for Europe to step up, to act decisively, and to lead. Only then can we hope to bring about a lasting peace.